Thank you all. I'm Vanessa Adams. I'm the president of the Global Network Board. If I look jet lagged, it's because I am. I just rocked off a plane from the US. And I know that it's the middle of the night for some of you, the first thing in the morning for some of you, and last minute of the day. So we'll try to stay to time. And thank you so much for joining us and making the time in your day to be online with us. Nate, could you share our slides for us?
Can you see my screen?
I can't.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
Okay. While Nate's doing technical glitches, I'll just say I know that we're a global society, so all of us are sitting in very different places in the world. But here in Australia, I am meeting from the land of the Moanina people. In Lutruwita, Tasmania, I acknowledge I am the beneficiary of their long custodianship of country, land that was never ceded, and I thank them as I look out my window. And it's quite beautiful today, so I will go outside and enjoy some nature after this wonderful meeting. In Australia, we welcome people to put into the chat where they sit if they wish to, and I invite you all to do that now if you want to as well, as we show thanks for the lands we sit on. I'll try to keep my welcomes short and sweet, and then we'll pass over onwards to the highlights of the meeting with Jen. Angela, your hand is up. Is that on purpose? Okay. And Nate, I see your slides, but not the not the, I don't know how to say it. The words are all, well, that is, yes. Can you enter like presentation so we just see the slides? Not a big deal if not. That's all right. Technical, there we go. I just wanted to start by noting that we are a global society of around 3,000 members, and our regions now manage our regional membership. So I hope that you all are enjoying your deeper connections to the regions. This is just a quick snapshot of where our members live and work in terms of our regions, noting that I tried to put the drop pins vaguely in the center of our chosen regions. So and our groups, our programs, and our working groups are the custodians of really our scientific and policy work. And so I've also tried to capture how we participate in our groups, noting that people might participate in multiple groups. So it's not like a perfect one-to-one, but just a general participation rate across our groups. I find it really always invigorating to look at just how globally distributed we are and the new types of topics that our working groups take on. Next slide, please, Nate. And I wanted to feature a really important thing that we did, well, in my opinion, a very important thing that we did this year, and that was that we launched our associate membership. And this is really a cornerstone of our new governance model. This is a free membership that has specific benefits attached to it. We want our society to be for everyone. We do rely on membership dues to deliver benefits to our members. And so there are certain differentiating features of a paid membership versus an associate membership. But we realize that the strength of our society is in its members and we shouldn't be a closed door. And so we launched this membership with trust and faith that we could continue to deliver financial benefits to our financially paid members, those who can give the money to our society, while still inviting everyone to be a member. And so this is just a snapshot of those that have chosen to join us in this way across our different regions. And we hope that this continues to be a meaningful way for example, our chapter participants who perhaps aren't ready to become a full member, or maybe people who just want to find out more about us, join us, and then if and when they can pay, they will. So I think this is a really exciting thing that's happened. And if you didn't know about it, I do invite you to go online and just look at the description of why we've chosen to do this and what the different types of benefits are that a member would receive as an associate member. Certainly, if you're participating in chapters or other groups or have students and they say that price is a barrier to being a participant, then please do encourage them to consider this as a way to begin to engage with our society. No other slides from me, but just a quick few personal highlights because there are too many. our working groups and programs continue to be really active and to deliver amazing programmatic activities. I know that we have a special section led by the social science group coming out soon. Impact Counterfactual Tuesdays for me as my own personal professional work really aligns. I find such amazing ideas and community within those. Those happen on a nearly weekly basis. So I find that a lot of the academic inspiration very much comes from our groups, and I thank them for doing that. Our journals, Chris Anderson led a really important and impactful piece summarizing the reasons why financial barriers are never a barrier to publishing with us. So if you have an amazing work, you should always want to publish with us. I hope you do want to publish with us, and money is never a barrier. And that's a really important editorial that summarizes the ways that we can help you to publish with us where financial means aren't possible to pay any of the fees. And then there have been vibrant conferences all around the world, led by our programs and by our regions. I was able to participate in the North America Congress this year and found it really, really invigorating to hear the similarities in the science being done in North America, as well as the differences, the regional specifics of the ways that we engage with different types of stakeholders, different topics, different sort of land tenures and issues. So I found that really, really interesting and very much enjoyed being able to be at a different regions conference this year. And of course, we got to present our award winners this year at our regions. So if you're coming to ICCB, then there'll be a whole session celebrating our awards at a global level in Brisbane. But if you were at any of our regional conferences this year, you would have had a chance to celebrate some of the amazing award winners, of which I think I can remember maybe a handful. So I can't do the full cohort justice. Please, again, visit our website. But I do remember Helen Newing, Nyawira Muthiga, and Nunya Thomas Moko as three of the amazing award winners that we got to celebrate. But we do have those on our website. So please also consider going to our website just to see all of the amazing award winners from this year. With that in mind, those are just my personal highlights. Hopefully capturing the vast amount of work that all of our different groups put in on a largely volunteer basis to deliver benefits back to our disciplines and to our members. I might pass on to my personal favorite part of the agenda, our financial report.
I'll copy the screen share, and Jennifer Thornhill will share her screen and give the financial report.
All right, let me get that and get that into. Okay, are you seeing my presentation and hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Jennifer Thornhill. I am SCB's treasurer. I'm calling in today from Corvallis, Oregon in the US. And I'm going to give a brief update on the Society's finances. So what my presentation is going to focus on are the Society's 2023 finances. You haven't seen some of these presentations before, you might wonder, why are we talking about 2023 when it is currently January of 2025? This is because these are our most current audited financials. So while our global services team is continually reviewing SCB's finances and the Global Network Board reviews and discusses the finances every quarter, our financials are only audited by an outside independent auditing firm once a year. And so those are the financials that we present traditionally at this membership meeting. And the most current ones we have are from fiscal year 2023. All right, so now that I've explained why we're focusing kind of back a little bit, let's just take a quick look at the broader context. So what this slide is giving you is a general idea of our major sources of revenue for SCB. And our largest sources of revenue are typically our conferences, our journals, memberships, fellowships, grants, and donors. These are the things that sustain SCB and that allow us to focus on our mission. Okay, so here's some of the numbers from 2023. So what I'm showing you is our 2023 audited statement of activities, and this shows the Society's actual revenue, expenses, and the net assets for the year of 2023. So for that year, SCB engaged Cherry Beckart LLP which is an independent auditing firm and ranks among the largest accounting firms in the United States. SCB received a clean audit with the audit report stating, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the society. So I'm just going to talk through some of the high-level audited numbers. In 2023, SCB's total non-restricted revenue was $3,892,533. And the largest sources of this revenue were funds from the Smith Fellows postdoctoral program, profit sharing, our meetings, publications, and a return on investments. Moving down to the expenses portion, SCB's total expenses were $3,589,335, and our largest categories of expenses were the Smith Fellows Program, ICCB, publications, membership and outreach, and supporting services, which includes costs that are associated with our Global Services Office and governance. SCB's net income in 2023 was $303,198, and the society's total assets increased from $2.075 million to $2.378 million. Overall, in the year, SCB's actual expenses and revenue performed favorably when we compare that to our budget for the year. And there's a couple of main reasons behind that. The first is that ICCB in Rwanda was held that year, and we netted a modest profit from that meeting. And then second, the SCB investment account had a positive net change in our holdings. So on the topic of our investment account, this slide shows you the historic values of our board designated reserve funds. The Board Designated Reserve, or the BDR, was created in 1987 to enhance the financial security of the society. And the investment account strategy is to help to preserve our Board Designated Reserve capital, to provide income to support the society's operations, and then to steadily grow our principal. SCB is committed to ethical impact and sustainability practices in its investing decisions. So to get into the numbers here a little bit, the account began 2023 with portfolio holdings of $1,597,226 and ended the year at $1,705,548. So this expansion in our holdings consisted of a $75,000 budgeted withdrawal that helps support society operations, and then a performance increase of $183,322 in the value of our holdings. So overall, the SCB investment account had a net change in holdings of a positive $108,322. So I'm just going to quickly conclude my report to you today with just a very brief update on how things look for 2024 now that we're in 2025. So our actual performance in 2024 did track favorably against our budget for the year. I'm not going to present any numbers here. The 2024 audit will occur this spring, and then we'll be reporting on those actual numbers at the next members meeting. Before I end, I just want to say a quick thank you to the SCB staff, in particular Warren Sander and Miriam Hernandez, who are handling these finances on a day-to-day basis. And thank you to Steve Humphreys, who helps us to manage our investments. That's my quick update. That's all I have. And I believe there's an opportunity for questions later in the meeting. And I will stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And we'll move on. There will be questions, an opportunity for questions at the end of the meeting, as Jen said, but we'll move on to the publications report, which is by Chris Anderson, the interim editor-in-chief of Conservation Biology, and also Conservation Science and Practice will also present. Chris, are you here?
I'm here.
All right, great.
So, yeah, you'll see the next slide is kind of a busy slide. but there are only 4 main messages. The first message is that we're consistent. So when you see several numbers there, for example, this year we had record submissions. So when you see several numbers, it's the last couple of years, because I wanted to show trends and not just this year. And so the first message basically is that we're consistent. And of course, being consistent is good when you're considered the flagship publication in conservation. You want to maintain that status. So in that sense, the first message is consistency, but the second message is that this is not done by me. This has actually been done. This consistency has been achieved by people like Mark Bergman with his long-term editorship of the journal, but also the senior and managing editors, Ellen Main and Frith Gerard, who really are what allows this consistency. And the global reach of our publication is illustrated on the first part by the number of authors we have, from 58 going up to 63 countries, but also we have 6 regional editors in the world's regions, and 95 handling editors from 25 countries. So we really do strive to have a global reach. But I think Vanessa's comments are also germane for the journals, because we do have a significant need to recruit authors and editors from equitably distributed around the world. So we have distribution, but we don't have equity. And so we have a steady publication rate, number of publications per year. We have a steady acceptance rate. We're consistently in the same ranking. The impact factor, if you want to look at those numbers, they fluctuate a lot, but it's because the data that go into the impact factor fluctuates. So I think what actually matters is our ranking rather than the impact factor. And they have a lot of other issues as well. Our half-life citation rate is steady as well at more than 13 years. And one thing that has been sort of a perception since the pandemic is that it's more difficult to get reviewers. And there's some evidence that that's the case, although it's not a game changer. You know, you can see there the numbers have slightly gone down, but it's around 30 to 40% acceptance rate. So one invitation is please accept invitations for reviews when you get them. The third message really, so the first message was we're consistent. The second message is we're consistent because of our valuable team of editors, both the professional staff and those of us who come at it from the academic side. But the third message is really the invitation to engage. And so, for example, some of these highlights, we've tried to better engage authors by attending certain author demands of increasing word limits, making it somewhat more free submission format, although as Ellen Main said, it's not a free for all. We're more flexible, but it's not like you can submit any format. And we've provided guidance, for example, on how to cite traditional ecological knowledge. We've provided more details on post-acceptance process. All these things are sort of being responsive to how authors have engaged to improve that experience. With regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion, we have this in mind constantly with recruitment, although here we have to be honest and say we haven't achieved our goals in terms of recruitment. But we've also applied other strategies. For example, there's a question in our submission forms that requires authors to say where data were collected and whether or not their authorship reflects that data collection. So we can't require authors to incorporate other co-authors, but we're trying to create a culture where it's expected that if you're doing work in a certain part of the world, their authorship should reflect that part of the world. Or if you're working in certain territories, the authorship should reflect that. So these are things we've incorporated, again, based on our own experiences, but also suggestions from reviewers and authors. Then with regards to social media, as you see, our numbers for X and for Facebook are pretty high. The Instagram account is new, so it only has 200 and some followers. And there have been different strategies. So last year there was an ambassador program that was tried that didn't really have much effectiveness. But just talking this week with Tiffany, who's the person who handles the Society's social media accounts, said that this new technique of using word of the week, where it's a way to get people to be engaged with the social networks. Also based on follow-up from reviewers and from authors, there's been a question of whether or not we should be transitioning away from X in particular, which is sort of the antisocial social media platform now. And so these are issues that we have brought to the board, and these are issues that we're thinking about and are being considered. Not just, these are things that come up from journals and we bring them to the society to consider from a more systematic level. Regarding our publishing model, the hybrid model, we have the open access fee base, but also the subscription model, which does allow us to give the waivers for SCB members, which was something Vanessa mentioned. So in 2024, we were able to give 13, and we also have increased outreach so people know this option more. So if you're a SCB member and you don't have funding, there are ways to get waivers on the subscription option of the publishing charges. And then finally, in the last year and this year, we're involved in 4 different special issues about megafauna, or beyond charismatic megafauna and illegal wildlife trade. And then the other 3 special issues all have to do with different issues of diversity and inclusion. And so as a final message, again, the invitation here is to engage both as society members, as authors, and as editors, because I think conservation biology as a journal and as a hopes to maintain its flagship status is actively engaged in this sort of paradigm shift within conservation more broadly of how to make it more inclusive, more just, and more effective for people and the planet. So that would be my summary. And I invite you to come to our social media places and follow us. As you can see, Instagram needs some support there.
Thank you so much. That was a great summary. We're going to pass on to our next presentation now, which I believe is straight over to our program counsel, Matthew Solinsky.
Actually,
Carolina Murcia, yeah.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Like I said, jet lagged. Carolina, I'm sorry. Of course, of course.
All right, no problem. Hi, everyone. I am Carolina Murcia. I'm the editor-in-chief of Conservation Science and Practice. I'm happy to report that the journal continues to grow. We grew up the number of new submissions increased by 11% last year after a significant increase of 24% the previous one. So it's been quite challenging to keep up with this important growth. We've also increased the number of countries represented by first authors, about 10%, and the number of manuscripts accepted and published. Our acceptance is 57%, excluding desk rejects. We have instituted a new policy regarding early desk rejections for papers that really don't cut a minimum level. That is a strategy I'm using to reduce the strain and the wear and tear on the editorial board and reviewers. So altogether, we published 203 papers. Our impact factor went up to Q1. We are in the 17th position. The number of journals in our group increased by 8, yet we retained the 17th position. We're hoping to keep going up. Our decided half-life is still very short, but we are a very young journal. We're just starting volume number 7. We are a diverse group of editors. We have 6 senior associate editors from 6 countries, 4 of which are academics and 2 practitioners. Perhaps something I should mention for those of you who are not so familiar with our journal is that we strive to have a wide representation of practitioners among our editorial board, reviewers, and authors. So I'll be presenting these type of figures frequently, showing what percentage of people are academics or report themselves as academics and what percentage report as practitioners. Among our editorial board, we have about almost 40% of our associate editors are practitioners. They come from about 25 countries, and at the end of the year, we had 75 associate editors. The number fluctuates a lot because there is a high turnover rate, particularly among practitioners, because many of these associate editors have jobs that are less constant than academics. Also, we have a high number of early career professionals, scientists in our editorial board, which are also have less stability in their jobs, so there is a high turnover rate. Typically, when they step down is because something in their career changed significantly, like moving to a new city or getting a promotion or something like that. So we have a high turnover rate in the editorial board, and that is a bit of a challenge sometimes. We had 11 people stepping down, and I recruited 7 new ones, but I'm actually in a strong recruitment campaign. So if you would like to be part of our editorial board as associate editor, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm trying to recruit from all disciplines, all different aspects of conservation biology and practice. Any country. I'm trying to increase diversity, but at this point, I'm giving priority to simply increasing our number of associate editors because the submissions are going up very fast. Last year, we continued to process one special issue that we were carrying on from 2023, and we started with 3 new ones, which are already in the process of being evaluated and revised. And there are 2 more under consideration for this year. Hopefully, we'll start getting papers for these 2 new special issues. I produced a document with guidelines so that the process of submitting a proposal was clear and met a minimum standard, so it will be easier to ensure that people knew what they were expected to do, when, and how. Next one, please. I had a work plan for 2024 that I presented previously. Most of it, which is signaled with the green arrows, has been accomplished. Some of it is in process. I continuously work to improve the author guidelines. The next iteration is going to change completely the way it's going to be presented. Instead of just a very long list of topics, it's going to be a much more dynamic process because it seems that authors rarely look at them. CSP, because it's been the way it was designed or it was conceived within the realm of Wiley, is a free formatting submission journal, which means that people don't take the time to really read the guidelines. They think that they can just submit as is, which is facilitates authors' lives. It makes our lives a little bit harder, but sometimes they don't meet minimum requirements. So I'm still in the process of improving these guidelines to make sure that everybody's life is easier. I included a flow chart to help people determine what type of manuscript they were submitting, which was also an issue. And I'm in the process of improving the templates for the letters. It's a bit of a challenge because Wiley's in the process of moving our submissions platform to a new one. So they're less keen to do any fixes to our ongoing issues. With the editorial board, it's all an ongoing process, trying to balance geographic representation, as I mentioned, and professional profile and area of expertise. We're mentoring early career associate editors. I'm taking in a few every year, and I personally provide a lot of feedback for them so that they learn the ropes on the job. And I'm working to increase consistency and performance among associate editors. Next one, please. We're still taking, I don't have the numbers yet for 2023. They couldn't provide them for me by the time I was due to produce this report, but we've seen an increase in processing times. I think based on one of these, on the final decision bar, we might have improved our times in 2024, but I still need to see the rest of the numbers. There are many reasons for this increase, and one main reason is, well, that the task has increased a lot for everybody, given the increase in submission rates and the turnover in associate editors, but also getting reviewers. So my message to you echoes Christopher's. If you get an invitation to review, please accept and please turn it in on time, because that really, really makes a big difference. Sometimes we find ourselves inviting up to 20, 24 reviewer people before we secure 1 or 2 reviews. It's harder for CSP to secure reviewers than for conservation biology, because our papers are less, we don't accept based on novelty. So we take in manuscripts that produce or present results that are not necessarily novel or on a novel topic. And they also do not have to have like a broad, universal, or large area of impact. Most of our work is focused on a specific geographic area or one species, etc. And that's a big difference with conservation biology, and that seems to be less attractive for reviewers. And so we're not giving like the first priority there. So we are always looking for new reviewers. Also, we take in a lot of manuscripts from early career scientists and practitioners that have less experience publishing. So the revision times are much longer, and we're often granting them extensions because it takes them a while longer to produce new versions. So we're still trying to work on all these issues to try to improve our processing times, but some of it is just inherent to the type of journal that we have. Next one, please. So this is a breakdown of turnaround times for first decision. And basically, as you can see with the green line on top, is the first reviewer assigned to last review return. So it's basically at how much time the manuscript is in the reviewer's hands. That's what's causing the longest detail. So we're still trying to work with these, but there isn't much more we can do with people who are volunteering their time. Next. As I mentioned, the work plan for 2024 was to try to reduce content review time. And one of the things that I put in was a new policy with a stronger quality control at the onset. So the senior associate editors are rejecting manuscripts without, early on when there are issues with the manuscript. If they have potential to be fixed, we allow them the option to resubmit the manuscripts, so that when they do go to review, they're much better, much stronger manuscripts than what was originally submitted. We send them back because the methods are wrong or not sufficiently explained, or there is no clear link to conservation action, which is something that we require, or they haven't reported their ethics permits, or the academic format, I mean, the format of the paper is not really, doesn't comply with an academic publication format. So those are things that perhaps can be fixed, and we send them back with the option to resubmit. We're also improving the reviewer experience based on what information they're giving us in the platform on a special question we included to get feedback from them. And I'm happy to report that we're getting fewer and fewer complaints and more compliments as the year went on. And we also reduced one last cycle of revision when there are very minor final details to be fixed, and we send them to production with the commitment of the author to fix those and the oversight from the production people. One of the big challenges is to get Wiley and Scholar One to provide us with additional information so that I can actually understand better where the issues are. I'm still working on that. Hopefully this year we'll get the information that we request and that we need. I think this is all from I'm also finalizing a first draft of the editor-in-chief manual. There was not one for the journal. I think it's important for any potential transitions in the editor-in-chief. And I'm providing more guidance to practitioners and Global South authors on how to address manuscript problems and respond to reviewers. I think this is it for now. I appreciate your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carolina. That was a really wonderful update. This time I really will hand over to Matthew Selins. Oh, wait, this says Regional Council. Nate, help me.
All right, we're handing it over to Misha for the reason.
Okay, Misha, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. That's
Okay,
perfect.
fantastic. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give a quick update from the Regional Council. So just a reminder that the Regional Council under the new SCB structure is made up of representatives from each of the regions, and we try to meet every couple of months. So this is just a bit of an overview of the topics that we've touched on since we started meeting last year. So this kind of gives you an overall roadmap of our timing and discussions, but the following slides are going to go into detail on each one. So just want to say on this slide that we've met in April of last year, and we had a bit of a brainstorm about all the topics that regional representatives felt that were important to cover together and that we needed to discuss in light of the restructure and in light of where things are at. So I'll just quickly touch on each of those in the subsequent slides. So next slide, Nate, thanks. So in August of last year, we had a great discussion about chapters. Some of you may recall under the previous structure, we had a global chapters committee, so that was part of the discussion. We also had some great support from SCB Global for each of the regions to be able to access membership dashboards on a region by region basis. So as regional leaders, this helps us to be able to keep track in much more real time and be much more involved with tracking membership within our regions and considering at the regional level and amongst the regional leadership how we're going with memberships. And, if we trial new things, does that have an impact on membership that we can see right away and things like that. So that was really helpful. So I guess that kind of led into an overall discussion about the sort of structure of chapters, within the Vision 2026 discussion. And as with many of the things that we've talked about at the global level, the primary push is around giving regions more autonomy and more kind of ownership and more responsibility for different aspects of the society, and that came out in the chapters discussion as well. So we also talked about how the associate membership program that Vanessa touched on earlier can help to support chapter growth. I think certainly my experience from the Oceania region is that often our youngest members in the society are recruited through chapters and chapter involvement, but those are often students that might be undergrads or even younger, and they're not necessarily ready to join at the full membership level. So I think the associate membership can be really helpful from that chapters perspective because it can bring people going to chapters events officially into the sort of SCB umbrella, but doesn't have that big cost barrier. And hopefully some of those people, if they stick with a conservation career or they're very interested in conservation going forward, that can bring them into SCB as they and their careers mature. Maybe next slide. So a couple of things post that meeting. We did develop some new chapter support guidelines that reflected those discussions, and we sort of voted to officially sunset the chapters committee that was up and running under the old structure. We also agreed to distribute the current chapters committee purse equally to the regions. This can be done once regions are actually up and managing registration of their chapters directly. So I think the Global Network Board also approved those measures that the Regional Council voted on for implementation this year. In October, we talked a bit more about memberships in terms of considering the benefits and also potentially reconsidering pricing. So we talked about, what are the guidelines and goals and what are the considerations when we set membership prices. We talked about the current structure and whether or not regions might want to think about changes to that. And if you go forward to the next slide, subsequent to that meeting, the regions went back to their boards to talk about that. I know we had a good discussion about that on Oceania level, and other regions did the same. We have since had a proposal from North America to consider a small reduction to the membership fees in the near future. So we're going to consider that at our March meeting. Next slide, Nate. Thank you. In January, which will be our next meeting coming up very shortly in the next couple of days, we're going to talk about how the Regional Council can provide more direct leadership into SCB. And this includes reconsidering the terms of reference that we developed. So I think those were kind of a first go last year, and it's time to kind of consider, in light of the meetings that we've had so far, whether those are working and whether we need to make some changes to those to be more effective. And then, like I said, at the March meeting, we'll reconsider this membership question again. So I guess just overall reflections is that I think it's been really good to have the regional leadership representatives meeting more regularly, seeing each other face to face, hearing from one another that, we have a lot of issues that we've all been thinking about separately. And so it gives us a lot of energy and sort of helpful ideas to meet together. Just want to reiterate too, we've had great support from the global services staff to make these meetings effective and to help us keep momentum going through. So I think that model works really nicely. And I'm happy to answer any questions later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Misha. This time for realsies, we're headed over to the Program Council.
And thanks, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. My name is Matthew Solinsky. I'm the Program Council Chair. And, if you haven't heard about the Programs Council, that's because it's relatively new. We've been in existence for less than a year. And basically, Program Council drives the programmatic direction of the society and serves as the collective voice of the society's programmatic groups. And those include global programs, which is the only one that exists is the Marine Global Programs, the working groups. We have 13 or more working groups and task forces. And so, programs like the global programs, working groups help drive membership. They also create value, as mentioned previously, by driving engagement in topical areas. So we've got the SSWG and the Impact Evaluation Group have special sections coming out in society journals. The Impact Evaluation Group has monthly webinars that we discussed earlier. But we also run conferences, create symposia, offer awards, and we do mentoring, among many other things. So and we've been meeting over the last year, every couple months. And again, a lot of that is focused on sharing challenges, as Misha mentioned, in maintaining engagement in working groups. So, like, for instance, getting people to run for board positions in the working groups, or how to deal with the reduction of people willing to volunteer across, I think, probably the society as a whole. And these meetings have been providing a bit of momentum for working groups specifically. So the SCB Program Council responsibilities include those decision-making recommendations on the society's branding, identity, and programmatic direction, as well as governance and oversight of the Program Council budget. And so generally, as I mentioned, provides general support for programmatic groups, including reviewing and guiding group formation processes. And we also review annual work plans to identify shared goals, opportunities, and challenges, and allocate funding to support the implementation of group activities and initiatives. And it's something we've done in the last year, is deliver that funding for working groups, which hasn't really existed for working groups previously in the society. So that's a big step forward for supporting the capacity of working groups and programs. Go ahead, Nate. So in terms of our kind of high-level priorities for 2025, and this is still kind of preliminary, as this needs to be approved by the Program Council, but we wanted to deliver this today. We want to optimize those governance structures so that we can really effectively identify common challenges and synergies across these different groups and make sure that our energies are aligned and directed towards impactful outcomes that benefit those individual working groups and programs and our broader work as the Programs Council and the mission of the society. So the Programs Council work through small teams that can address these common challenges that we're facing and some of the barriers to participation and group formation as well, so we can get more working groups formed and supporting the society's mission and better collaboration and knowledge sharing across these different groups. We also want to strengthen those individual group health and capacity by ensuring that these working groups have the guidance and resources and leadership to thrive. So just really quickly, we've got two different roadmaps, one on the governance and the other on group health. In Q1, so we're going to be meeting 4 times this year. Q1, we're going to be focusing on that clarifying roles and responsibilities, make sure that we have those efficient workflows and authority within the Programs Council and those small groups and programmatic groups. Q2, we'll be reviewing and improving policies for the formation of and oversight of working groups, task forces, and global programs, just really providing some guidance and some how-to for developing working groups and running those effectively and efficiently. Q3 will be creating that 5-year strategic plan, as I mentioned, outlining those long-term governance goals and aligning with the society's mission. And then Q4 will be instituting for the first time the development of annual work plans for these different working groups. So we do get some sort of some rigor in terms of reporting back on activities. In terms of group health, Q1 will be focused on developing strategies to engage and grow membership within the existing programmatic groups. Q3, identifying and addressing and working to solve some of those challenges, those barriers that we face for new working groups and task forces. And then Q3, you want to focus on evaluating group health, and so developing some of those metrics and indicators that we can use to demonstrate growth in programmatic engagement and groups. And then finally, in Q4, reviewing and refining SCB's branding, make sure that we are reflective of our disciplinary diversity that exists within the society and align with the goals of the programmatic groups. So in terms of that 5-year plan, we'll be looking at, and this is something that will happen again starting at Q4 and then into 2026, creating a sustainable plan for the development of new journals and management of those journals. We want to make sure we're optimizing fund allocations, making sure that we're getting people, program leaders to attend ICCB, for instance. We want to, again, as I mentioned, redesign SCB's branding to reflect the programmatic and diversity that exists within SCB, build sustainable governance structures to support those programs over the next 5 years, and then enhance group capacity, which is a real issue across these different working groups. So thanks, Vanessa. I think that will.
Great. Then over to our conferences with Mwezi.
Hi, thanks, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. My name is Mwezi Mugira, the SCB president-elect, and also the chair for the SCB conference committee. I'll quickly share with you some of the key highlights from our conference program from the last year. But before that, just to share the role and composition of this committee, it's basically composed of leaders from SCB groups who provide guidance on the SCB conference planning. So we assess and approve proposals to hold group congresses, focusing mainly on the financial management and managing reputational risk, providing recommendations and guidance to the SCB Global Network Board on the organization of ICCB. Thanks, Nate. So yeah, as I said, we provide support, we collaborate, and also provide guidance for SCB groups as they host their regional congresses, but also the global ICCB. So we help to organize. I mean, some of our advice and support comes in through organizing and managing shared conference resources. We discuss and catalog some of the best practices and share knowledge. We identify some of the common challenges, provide the support and guidance on conference organization. So, and this in line with the ICCB strategic directions, whereby we advise the GNB, the Global Network Board, on global rotation of the ICCB, ensuring a strategic distribution of ICCBs around the globe. We assess the RFPs for ICCB destinations from the host regions, but also review and approve the ICCB budgets. So some of our ongoing, yes, like I said, so some of our ongoing conference committee work is that this is really exciting for us because there is first of its kind collaboration for the ICCB 2027, whereby the LACA or Latin America and Caribbean and the North America regions are collaborating to co-host the ICCB 2027. So this will be the first time where SCB regions come together for a joint ICCB. So that's something quite exciting. We are continuing to provide support to SCB regions and groups to host their conferences in 2026. As you know, like 2025 is the ICCB year, so there are no regional conferences. We are determining how the conference committee can interact with the region and program council as well in terms of, suggesting potential congresses, but also we are still reviewing the rotational schedule for ICCB in a way that allows us to increase accessibility and impact, all for the growth for the SCB in general. So, sorry. So last year, 2024 has been an exciting when a lot has happened. Next.
So, sorry, Mozi, it won't show the actual graphics on this slide. But basically, this is a slide with the regional conferences that we had in 2024.
It's all right. I can talk about them. So yeah, last year in 2024 we had a couple of exciting congresses, all regional congresses, and also the IMCC 7. So okay. So it all started in June 2024 when we had the European Congress for Conservation Biology, or the ECCB, that was hosted in Bologna in Italy. Shortly after that, we had the North America Congress for Conservation Biology, the NSCCB, that was hosted in Vancouver, Canada. We moved on to October, where two congresses happened. There was the IMCC, the International Marine Conservation Congress 7, IMCC 7, that happened in Cape Town, South Africa. And shortly after that followed the Africa Congress for Conservation Biology, or the ACCB, that was hosted in Mweka in Kilimanjaro, Tanzania. After that, we moved into November, where LACA, the Latin American Caribbean Congress for Conservation Biology, happened in Quito in Ecuador, and also an online conference from the Conservation of Science program that was hosted online. So that was the congresses that happened last year in 2024, and to this year, 2025, the ICCB year. So I'm very excited to, I'm very excited to, to pass on to Misha and Vanessa to talk to us more about the ICCB 2025, which is being hosted by the Oceania region. Thank you.
Are we waiting for each other to talk, Vanessa? Do you want me to do these slides, or did you want to do them? I'm happy to do them if you like.
Over to Misha then, because I'd like to just acknowledge that Misha is our co-convener for the conference, has put an amazing amount of effort to make this a really inviting destination. So I will pass over to her and she can tell you about the amazing and exciting destination that we have for you.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. And yeah, it's been a great pleasure to co-chair this conference with Professor Hugh Possingham, who I'm sure many of you know. Yeah, so hopefully you've all heard about ICCB. You can see the hashtag here, visit the website, but go ahead, please, Nate, to the next slide. So just very quickly, because I know we're very close to time, some things to look forward to. We had an almost overwhelming number of symposia submissions, which was absolutely wonderful. So I can certainly say that you can look forward to a full scientific program. We've also had incredible number of workshops submitted. So ahead of the Congress, there'll be a weekend of workshops. That's a weekend of workshops, including a student day. And we also have some training courses that will be a part of that weekend. I also just wanted to shout out some of the amazing work that our subcommittees are doing. We have some wonderful, very engaged, hardworking subcommittees, including our language accessibility subcommittee. So just a few things I wanted to highlight from their work. You might have noticed the conference website is available in multiple languages. You can change the language of the website. We've had a survey go out about what language accessibility measures people would like to see at the Congress, and the committee is very much taking those suggestions on board and building language accessibility measures into the conference. Some of these include, we have sponsorship from an AI company that allows people to get immediate feedback on abstracts, and also a free several-month subscription when they're ready to upload presentations that can help with language corrections and helping with grammar and things like that. So that's just one example, but that committee has been amazing. So please look out for more language accessibility measures, including a pre and post conference survey about these issues. We also have an amazing inclusivity, equity, and diversity committee. They've also been looking out for all aspects of the conference, trying to take on board a wide range of perspectives, making the conference a safe and accessible place for people of all cultures, genders, identities, etc. So really appreciate the work of those subcommittees. We have some amazing keynote speakers lined up, which I will talk about on the next slides. And we also have some great social events, including a closing reception at the Queensland Museum, which is a really, really amazing venue. We're also planning to have a science comedy night, which will be open to the public as well, maybe a movie night and other events sprinkled through the week. So a full program, both scientifically and socially. Next slide, please. This is just a preview of some of our amazing keynote speakers. We have Ricky Archer, who's a well-known Indigenous leader in Australia and the current Director of National Parks. So very excited to hear Ricky's perspectives on how things are going locally. We also have Binbin Li, who's based at Dukunshan University in China. Her work is around intersections of sustainable development and climate change, as well as some of the amazing megafauna in that country, including giant pandas. We have Amy Van Nuys, who is based in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. She works a lot on wildlife trafficking and wildlife rehabilitation. So that will be a really interesting presentation, I'm sure. And Claire as well, who's based at UBC, and I'm sure is well known to many of you on the call here. So really excited about how our keynotes are shaping up. Stay tuned on the website for more updates as we go forward. Next slide, please. Also just wanted to give a plug for the city itself. Brisbane is an amazingly biodiverse city. There's so many wildlife and nature interaction opportunities really close to the city. We are planning to have daily bird walks ahead of the conference. As I mentioned, we'll have the closing reception at the Natural History Museum at the Queensland Museum. I also wanted to give a plug. We have already up and running, ready for people to sign up anytime, an amazing field trip program that's been developed in partnership with Eco Safaris Queensland. So if you hop on the visitor section of the ICCB website, you can sign up for field trips directly with Eco Safaris anytime. We've got offerings during the week, after the conference, short, cheap things, long, amazing wildlife opportunities. So I think a pretty varied set of opportunities for the field trips. We also have a really awesome initiative at Archerfield Wetlands. So as kind of, if people want to make a contribution to the city that they're coming to, whether you want to consider that, an offset for the impacts you have from travel and so on. We're offering people the chance to sign up for a tree planting initiative at Archerfield Wetland. This is a wetland that my co-chair, Hugh Possingham, has had a very long history of interaction with. It's amazing work that they're doing there. And if you do contribute to this initiative, you have the opportunity to go for a walk on Saturday at Archerfield, participate in the actual vegetation planting, go for a bird walk, hear from the people working on this rehabilitation program. So I think that's really exciting. You can purchase tickets for that through the registration as well. Next slide, please. So yeah, I certainly hope to see many of you there. The call for abstracts is open now until the 21st of Feb. Early bird reg is closing the 15th of April. And as I mentioned, we do have lots of great social events, but the spaces are limited due to the venue size. And I think the demand for the conference is going to be big. So please do consider signing up early so that you're not disappointed on those. Think that's my plug for ICCB. Hopefully I didn't go on too long. Thank you very much for the chance to talk about the conference. Cheers.
That's awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Misha.
Misha. And we really do hope that many of you will be able to join us and want to join us in Brisbane. It's lovely that time of year. So, and actually we found that even some of the side venues that people are booking for their own holidays are booking up fast. So getting quick on holiday plans.
Thanks, Misha. Thanks, Vanessa. Back to you, Nate.
Well,
I
with
believe we're opening to questions. Is that
Yep.
right, Nate?
open,
To actually get that one right?
that's right. No, you got that right. Yep, this is the question and answer session. I believe we've had a few questions in the chat, but some of them may be answered. I think, Warren, you're following the questions in the chat. Are there any outstanding questions?
Well, they've been addressed a bit in the chat. I don't know if we want to go deeper into them. We could, but I see Rourke has his hand up. Maybe we'll go there and then we'll see how we want to circle back.
Hello, nice seeing all of you, and thank you very much for the presentations. That's very informative. I have heard complaints from a couple of colleagues about the rejection rate on conservation biology for non-North American or European first or submitting authors. So is there a metric about percentage of reception versus acceptance of papers or manuscripts from North America, Europe versus the rest of the world? It would be interesting to see how inclusive we are being in conservation biology.
I might ask, I know that we've analyzed that. I might ask Chris Anderson if he has those statistics off the top of his head. Otherwise, we can offer to share those back. I know that we also actively have a mentorship program, of which I have mentored some authors, where perhaps the style of writing might be the barrier, not the quality of the science done. And then we work with that author just in a few rounds of essentially individualized revision and mentorship on the writing side. And so I know that where you feel that possibly that's the barrier, then you can participate in that mentorship program. I regularly work on mentors, but Ellen and Frith have contacted me and I've participated that in the past. So I'm sure they would warmly welcome more mentors willing to invest time in those authors. Chris, do you think we have those statistics available, or shall we just offer to share them back post-meeting?
Definitely, it's a post-meeting thing. I've been interim editor-in-chief for 6 months. And so these are the kind of things that maybe Mark would have just on his brain, but I can't give you that data, but I know we have that under consideration. And I think also we've tried to communicate that a lot of the majority of the rejections we get are actually based on novelty and impact. And so those types of articles, as Carolina mentioned, have now been sent to Conservation Science and Practice, because it's usually not a quality issue with most rejections. It's more of a novelty and global importance versus a specific case study. But it's definitely something we're taking into account. I just don't have those data to be able to just cite them to you without looking them up. So we'll have to get back on that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I see Abraham has his hand raised. Vanessa. Abraham, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, Nate, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. My question is, I don't know if you go to the leadership or the regional council. I just want to ask us to try to decentralize the governance or perhaps, give more responsibility to region and chapters. Is there a monitoring and evaluation component in all this so that we are sure that in the long term, the mandate, goals, and ideas of SCB still not, shifted as we try to decentralize the governance process. So that's just one of the key things I want to find out, if there's a monitoring and evaluation component in all these, all these changes. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
did you?
my audio is glitching out, so I didn't hear enough of that to answer. Nate?
Right. So I think it was a question for, is Misha still here? But anyway, the regional council, and do we have mechanisms in place for monitoring the advancement of SCB as we move into the new global network structure to check our progress against what SCB's mission is and what our aspirations are?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, to me, having the structure of the regional and program councils, I mean, I guess that's in my mind sort of our day-to-day job. That's, I guess, what we're meant to be doing. Maybe when we, as the regional council, review our terms of reference this week, that's something that we can keep in mind when we look at those. But yeah, I don't know if the intent was kind of something specific or, yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that one. Sorry.
I can try to offer something too. And I was a little sidetracked here and trying to multitask, so forgive me if I'm a little off base. But one thing that we will be doing regularly, which is actually coming up here in late Q1 of 2025 and Q2 is we'll be going through periodic intervals of organizational health assessments. So like that will be going out to the membership, and there should be questions that are being asked related to some of the things that you touched on, Abraham, in that, and those will be some data points that we'll also be able to collect. But it's definitely an ongoing process.
Thanks, Warren. Are there any other questions?
There's one from Laura in the chat, which I was just going to type a response to, but we can quickly say, yes, please. Her question is there any specific way to get involved for those wanting to get involved? And I was going to reply that in general, if you know the way you want to get involved, it's always easiest to go direct to those kind of committees. So if you want to be involved in, say, your regional board, it's always easiest just to go directly to those boards or the programs or your working groups. But otherwise, I think you could just easily reach out to our general like info@combio email, and we can always kind of connect you to the right people as well. So we do tend to respond pretty quickly to queries we have and give you kind of the options available. But in general, we have all of our regional boards and our working group and program boards who actively have committees and efforts underway that would be happily welcoming more volunteers. So in general, the more you know about what you want to do and how you would like to connect, the better we can kind of get you to the right people to start participating in activities.